What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain Break It Down Forex. It's your boy Big Bain and this thing. You guys guessed it, another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it. All right, boom, over on the dollar, guys. So not much movement from last week. All right, a lot of consolidation from that past Monday, right, all the way to Friday. Just nasty price action. All right, so nothing that was clear and readable for us to trade, but definitely had a hard time going higher. So each time we see, not this arrow, all right, each time we see price get to this resistance level, we see rejection of the bulls, all right, with these wicks. All right, so that is kind of giving, some indication that is, potentially going to reverse or fall because of that rejection, but that is not a guarantee. All right, price can still push up and finally break past that resistance and get to the next level of resistance, which is this major supply area. All right, so this pattern is a rising wedge. All right, probably looks better on the 4-hour. All right, there it is, all nice and clean and pretty. All right, to where we can see that there's a high chance of us just continuing, this whole little riffraff, which I really hope, it's not the case, right? But in case it is, right, that's, how it goes, because price is just staying within this particular wedge. All right, but this is a rising wedge, which is a bearish reversal pattern. All right, so price is supposed to sweep liquidity from the top and then reverse and start dropping. All right, so with that sweep, it may include touching supply, right, and then doing the drop. Okay, so you guys have to be very mindful of that, because that may take some time to play out. But past that, again, it can still rise, right? So this can be sort of looked at like a bullish flag, all right, if you will, and that is a bullish chart pattern, right? So there could be a movement up to that supply, which again will be a pretty significant move for the dollar, and that will cause things like the majors, metals, and the indices to move pretty significantly. All right, so my take is that we will get some sort of push up, all right, because we have huge imbalance here, right, and we just kind of got halfway. But with that supply area sitting here being unmitigated, right, there's pretty much a good chance, because we're coming off of this support area, for us to start pushing up and taking the liquidity from the buy side in that supply area before we drop. So I am going to say temporarily bullish, all right, on the dollar, looking for that sweep and that mitigation before I'm bearish on the dollar. Now, if we just so happen to hit one of these numbers, can I find my stuff? All right, here. So if we happen to break below this low area, all right, then I'm automatically going to be bearish. All right, so we should get some sort of retest back to the area and then continue down. But that's only if we break below will I instantly be bearish. But for now, I'm bullish, expecting dollar to rise and then fall coming this week. All right, guys, so temporarily bullish and then overall bearish on the dollar. So look for the dollar to rise initially, especially out the gate today on Sunday. All right, moving over to JPY. Again, JPY is still not giving us anything. It's been torturous. It's been painful to see JPY just do a bunch of nothing, right? So as it broke higher, right, it failed to go any higher, and then ever since it's just been very messy on its retracement, its correction, or its pullback, right? So we have pulled back to this point of interest, which is the area that we broke, and we're hovering around it, we're playing around it, right? Nothing's really going on, but there's still plenty of imbalance to the downside that JPY can go and get. So that is still on the table, but at the same time, it can just rise from this point of interest. So this is a very 50-50, you know, situation on the JPY where once again, like every other week, we just have to be patient to see, you know, how it begins to play out. So simply, if it starts to break below this low, then we can expect it to continue going lower. But if it happens to break, you know, above this high, at that point is when we can expect it to continue going higher. So we have just a ton of more waiting that we have to do on the JPY before we can, you know, identify exactly which way it's going to go. So right now, very undecisive on JPY because it can go either way. All right, so just give it some time, let it show you something, and then from there you'll know how to play it. All right, moving over to odd dollar. And again, odd dollar for right now has broken this low just barely, and it's starting to retrace back up to this fair value gap, but it's engineering all of this liquidity by, you know, going sideways and consolidating, trying to get you to think that it's going to drop right away when that's not the case, right? It's going to sweep that liquidity, this buy side liquidity, tap into the FEG, maybe even take out liquidity behind the swing before it drops. All right, but because the dollar can come out to be, you know, to rise, we can see, you know, maybe a potential drop on odd dollar, but I do, you know, still expect it to rise first before it does the drop. So maybe the dollar drops a little bit and causes odd to go up, and then the dollar rises, which will cause odd dollar to fall. But just from the setup that I'm seeing here on the 4-hour, which is a high time frame, definitely looks like we're going to get some sort of sweep up of this buy side liquidity and mitigate this fair value, and then head to the downside. All right, so temporarily bullish, all right, on odd dollar. So it's most likely going to move up when the session opens, and then sometime during the week it will start to fall. So look out for that selling opportunity from this FEG on odd dollar. All right, moving over to euro dollar. And again, this is a little different, right? So we have a falling channel, which is a bullish reversal pattern. So here, I believe euro will continue to fall and tap into this demand area, taking this sell side liquidity, and then from there we'll get a rise up. So again, that rise will coincide with the dollar falling. All right, so the dollar will push up to its supply area, reject it, and start to fall. And when it starts to fall, that's when euro would have most likely already gone down to demand and then start to rise. All right, so this is a pretty nice setup going on where you can easily see how liquidity has been engineered, right, to where it's going to get the sell side first, right, tap into demand. Last time we were here, we shot up tremendously, and that's exactly what's going to be repeated once we get back in this area. So push down to demand, and you know, you could probably sell it out the gate, get you about 50 to 60 pips out of that, and then turn around, get into a buy, bringing it up to the high for about 258 pips for the week. All right, so I'm temporarily bearish, right, when the market opens on euro, and then I'm bullish on euro USD from this demand area. Over to pound dollar. All right, so pound dollar broke a low, made a new low, giving us nice retracement, right, to the supply area, which it hasn't quite gotten there yet, right? It looks like it wants to fall, but it's not ready, right? This is something that gets everybody, they, you know, they see a little push down and they get very, you know, jumpy to try to, you know, get into it. Now, that's all, you know, that's okay, right? You can still sell it here as long as your stop is above the supply, right? But if you want a better entry, then you'll just be patient and you'll wait for price to get to supply, right? And then place, you know, get your market order or a sell limit order here with a very tight stop loss behind supply, giving you a better risk to reward than you would have if you sold it from here with your stop loss here. You're risking a lot more than you would if you sold it from the high. So again, you know, trying to save you guys from something that is probably you know, ailing you, right, that you don't quite see, but it's, you know, just a simple change that will, you know, fix it and get you guys to be more profitable. All right, so on GU, I'm definitely expecting it to push up into supply, right? It may play around, it may drop first and then come up and get into supply and then drop again, right? Because there's liquidity on both sides. You never know which side is going to get collected first. But because we're pushing down and we're going lower, chances are we want to go lower, right? So knowing that, the manipulation always happens in the opposite direction before it goes in your intended direction. So please guys, hear me out, rewind that part so that it can stick, because I promise you, if you do, that light bulb will come on and you'll be like, oh, okay. So now, you know, when you're looking for sells, look for things to be manipulated to the upside first, and vice versa. If you're looking for buys, look for things to be manipulated to the downside first, right? And again, you know, just try to give you guys that game, right? But on GU, I'm looking for it to rise into supply, and then from supply, I'll be looking to sell it, all right? But who knows, you know, if it'll do that. It's just, that's what I'm expecting. So GU can just absolutely drop out of here, right? If the dollar happens to, you know, out the gate just push up and start rising, we can get a drop right from here. So, you know, be mindful of that. Again, you know, there's more than one way to kind of play this, but overall I am looking for GU to drop, all right, because of what it, you know, what the chart shows, all right. On NU, so NU did also break a low, but we started to consolidate. So because of that, right, again, we have to see which way it wants to, you know, break out, because once it broke, we were supposed to retrace all the way back up, you know, to the supply area, maybe this one, right? There's liquidity sitting here with these equal highs, so there's money to be gotten, but you know, it wants to confuse everyone. That way, you know, it can, you know, rip as many of us off as possible before going in the intended direction, which is down, all right? So again, may not get the sweep, right? May just fall, right? May just keep dropping, again, as the dollar may rise right out the gate. But this is one of those that you got to be very careful, because I can see, you know, good manipulation where it starts to push up first and then it gives you that major push down, all right? So for me, I am temporarily bullish on New Zealand dollar, but I will be looking for the sell opportunities from either this area here, which is a bit of a level, or the supply at the very, very top. All right guys, so I'm temporarily bullish but overall bearish on New Zealand dollar. All right, over the dollar CAD, you know, I'm expecting it to drop. I expect it to rise a little bit to the supply area first before it drops, but just tapping into supply and then coming all the way down. So I'm looking at a position on dollar CAD like this, all right? And again, guys, not every pair, even though, you know, they're correlated with the dollar in some form or fashion, the correlation doesn't always happen to match, all right? So don't get caught up on the correlation so much that you miss out on what the chart is telling you, all right? So even though dollar looks like it's going to rise, right, that doesn't necessarily mean dollar CAD is going to rise significantly, right? It can, but it just doesn't guarantee that, all right? So, you know, if you're seeing that you're at a major supply area, right, look how prices risen up, right? Last time it was here, if you just look left, it dropped significantly. So again, that's the same thing that can happen, you know, as we get to that area. So don't just be so, you know, stuck on correlation saying, okay, the dollar's going to go up, so I'm going to buy dollar CAD. Dollar CAD has already been rising for quite some time, right? We don't buy high, right? We buy low, so we missed that boat. All right, so we have an opportunity to catch the boat where we're selling high, right, which is what we want to do. So long story short, there's about 280 pips that we can catch to the downside on dollar CAD. Therefore, I am bearish on dollar CAD. All right, moving over to dollar CHF, same exact thing, where we broke an uptrend line, all right, significantly. We have a evening star that made a lower high. All right, so we went from making higher highs and higher lows to now lower highs. Lower highs and lower lows. All right, so what we're expecting, or at least what I'm expecting on dollar CHF now that we've broken below these lows, is for us to push into this fair value gap that we see right here between these 3 candles, get in there and then continue to fall, getting to this swing low. And if we do that, you know, from here we're looking at roughly, all right, about 100 pips on dollar CHF, again, which can turn into a lot more just depending on how the week goes. All right, so dollar CHF, I am bearish. All right, moving over to dollar JPY. I told you guys about how JPY is acting. So dollar JPY is in that same kind of, you know, situation. It did, you know, switch up from down to up here, so there's still potential that it can, you know, continue to rise, or, you know, just sweep liquidity behind this consolidation and then start to fall. So it's going to be very tricky how to play this. We're just in very, very tricky times with the market. Nothing really makes sense because of, you know, what Trump is doing, and, you know, it's a very hard time for traders to make, you know, good decisions right now, right? Because things that look textbook end up not really playing out how you expect them to, even though you knew that they should have. So, you know, it's pretty rough, but as long as you guys can read what's going on, you should be able to, you know, make a pretty good decision. All right, but in terms of USD JPY, it is still bullish. All right, but I am waiting for that drop. All right, because here is our supply area, so we'll most likely push up to that supply. All right, and then from there we'll most likely get our drop on UJ. So just initially, you know, I am looking for dollar JPY to push up, and after that I'm looking for a major drop on dollar JPY, which is probably going to give us a good 500 pips to the downside. So guys, you know, put a tag, all right, or something on dollar JPY for taking advantage of it rising right out the gate and then turning around and catching about 500 pips to the downside. All right, best ways: sell limit order here, or, you know, try to buy it right now, tight stop, see if you can, you know, get something out of that. But overall, the move is going to come from this supply area going down. All right, so temporarily bullish on UJ, but overall bearish. All right, pound odd, we broke this high, we made this new high, and we just, you know, consolidating. I don't really like the price action on pound odd, but if I had to take a guess, you know, I would say that because these highs kept getting lower, right, that we're still probably going to continue retracing down a little bit more to a point of interest that was on this push up. Right, so all of this is consolidating, but it's going to come down, hit, you know, either this demand area, maybe this fair value gap, who knows, right, and then start to rise back up. All right, so for right now, I am bearish on pound odd. All right, pound CAD broke the high, made a bit of a new high. We didn't really make a V shape, so this is still, you know, bullish. You can still pump up, all right, to take out the liquidity sitting behind these equal highs and maybe behind the actual swing. So there's a high chance that pound CAD can still rise, but because it's just broken this high, chances are it's wanting to retrace, right, to this demand area before it rises again. Right, and there's a huge FEG at the bottom. We don't know if it's gonna, you know, retrace all the way down there, but, you know, here is the protected low, right, that broke this high. So chances are we'll get right to here and then we'll start to rise up again. All right, so for pound CAD, temporarily bearish, but overall bullish on it. But again, you know, seeing that if it breaks below demand, then we're probably definitely gonna, you know, come down to this swing and get about a good 200 pips out of that. All right, so temporarily bearish, all right, but overall bullish on pound CAD. Pound CHF, same thing, broke the high, made a new high, and actually retrace back to the demand area. I think it's going to push a little deeper in the middle, right, and possibly a little lower, you know, to here, but I think it's going to respect demand. And once some bull candles show up, then I'll be looking to buy, and we can take it all the way to this swing high. So this is looking like a very good setup for about a good 120 to 30 pips on pound CHF. I'm bullish. Pound New Zealand, seems like it did the same thing, broke the high, made the new high, retraced to demand, and it already took off, right? So I just want to, this is, where it becomes pretty simple in understanding. Like, they all have that same movement. You just have to be able to spot it and take advantage of it. But breaking the high, making the new high, retracing and taking off. So it's already ready to continue rising. Therefore, we'll probably get up to this swing point on pound New Zealand, and we're looking at 200 pips to the upside. I am bullish on pound New Zealand. All right, GJ, part of the whole saga with the JPY. Again, it has been pushing up to supply. It looks like it's rejecting it, right? So we could see a drop, right? But definitely want to see JPY get below a low, all right, before I sell it, because it's still 50-50, right? It can respect this and bounce and get right back up to this supply area, right? So I don't want to be, caught with my pants down trying to sell it right now, knowing that is still a possibility. I would rather price break these lows, confirming that it wants to go lower by breaking lows, right? And then from there, look for a retracement, and then my opportunity to get in, as it will most likely, aim for this liquidity off the trend line, or just from each one of these lows that we see to the left. All right, so GJ, indecisive, all right, because it can go bullish out the gate or it can drop out the gate, but I'm mainly looking for the drop. Just needed to get below these lows before I pull the trigger. All right, so I'm overall bearish on GJ, but I can definitely see GJ respecting the area that it broke and continue to rise to that supply area. So again, just be mindful and play it according to what price is showing you guys. All right, moving over to silver. All right, and silver pretty much still was dropping, so breaking this low barely. All right, mama, I love you. All right, but it broke it barely, and now it's starting to retrace, and it's looking to most likely tap into supply before it drops. All right, but again, it can just drop right now because it did kind of get a little bit of this fair value gap that we see right here. All right, so it tapped into that pretty nicely. So it may be ready to continue dropping, but for right now, it is definitely bearish still, and it won't be bullish, all right, until we break above that supply area up here. So price kind of gives us one of these. Okay, now it's time to rock and roll with a buy position. Yes, my team did buy it, but we're probably going to close out with the little bit of profit that we have, even though this can still kind of push up to supply and get us in a little more profit, but it's too close for comfort. So we're going to probably end up closing it out and looking for a potential sell opportunity on silver, but at the same time making sure that we have alerts to know if price gets above supply, that it's time to rock and roll, as silver will begin to fly. But for right now, bearish on silver. All right, over to gold, and same exact thing, right? We're breaking lows here, right? New low, retracement. We actually touched supply, so you can see from the moment we touched supply, we stayed lower, right? We actually dropped significantly, did a little pullback, but now just consolidating. So it's trying to confuse everyone, right? With the consolidation, you don't know which way, but everything in terms of price action tells us that it's still bearish. All right, so potentially going to get another drop on gold before we get any sort of rise. All right, so just know, right, we never know, right? News still affects all of this. So in the event that gold happens to reach above supply, just know that at that point it's definitely time to buy it. All right, but bearish on gold for now, probably getting to one of these low points, but after that we'll be looking for buying opportunities. All right, over to natural gas. So we've changed structure from higher highs and higher lows, and now we've made lower highs and lower lows. All right, so I am expecting just a bit of a retracement to supply, and then for natural gas to get back down to this low. All right, so I'm bearish on natural gas. All right, over to crude oil. So looks like, you know, oil has been dropping, supposedly peace talks, but you never really know, right? But just from a chart standpoint, oil is still bearish, right? We broke the low, did a little bit of retracing, but we didn't quite tap supply. So I believe we will go and tap supply out the gate, and then we'll see a potential drop on oil. And with that, you know, I'll be looking to take the sell from that position here. All right, so bearish on oil. All right, SPY. So SPY has risen, right? So again, once again, just like the pound pairs, a nice break of the high, right? Made, you know, somewhat of a new high, and then retrace back to demand before it took off right to the swing. So now it's looking bearish, right? But you know, it's hard to tell how low it's going to go if it actually does drop. But I can see, you know, maybe to this area right here, even though it's mitigated. So it may just come to this area right here before it starts to rise again. So SPY, you know, is still very mixy, but I would say it is still more bullish than anything. All right, so maybe just a little bit more of a drop. And you know, all of this is mitigated, so I don't really see it coming this far down in this area. I see it mainly coming right here to this demand, even though that's mitigated as well. So it's already done a pretty good retracement. If I just take this low and this high, right, we've already gotten, you know, past the golden zone. So it is prime for it to, you know, start rising again. But you know, just be mindful that it may drop a little bit more before it rises. All right, but I'll be temporarily bearish on SPY and then overall bullish. All right, moving over to NAS, same exact thing, right? I expect a little bit of a drop, right? Not much, but you know, maybe to the area that we broke, like we did here, right? We broke it, came right back to it, took off, and now, you know, we may do that again, right? Because it's equal, so we may sweep it and then rise, or we may get a little deeper into this demand area and then take off. So you know, just watch out for, you know, temporary drop on these indices before we get another major rise. All right, temporarily bearish but overall bullish on NAS. Last but not least, US 30, and this is the cleanest out of the indices, with showing us that break and then that new high being created. So now it's trying to retrace as you know, we got a nice bearish engulfing candle here. So chances are we will get back to the area that we broke, or likely to this demand area. So you have a selling opportunity to catch the retracement, the pullback, or the correction on US 30 to demand, and then from demand look for it to rise back up to this high. You know, just, you know, taking advantage of clean market structure. All right, guys. So yeah, I'm expecting US 30 to drop initially, and then I'll be bullish once it gets to this demand zone. All right, so that'll do it for this week, guys. Hopefully you saw something that you like and you've been able to take advantage, or you will be able to take advantage of it this week, because all you need is one pair, right? So whichever one was the cleanest and looks like it makes sense to you, you know, rock with that one. All right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, right? Tell a friend and tell a friend, get everybody in, right? And we can all win. All right, but guys, in the meantime, in between time, y'all know what it is. It's your boy. Peace.
Wanna get money? Wanna get paid? That's Forex. Like a sensei, then you know you gotta come and swing my way. And if you wanna fast forward, hit replay.